Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to My Catholic Perspective. I am Allie Marie. On this channel, we talk about what the Catholic Church teaches. So, in today's video, this is not an opportunity for people who disagree with Catholic doctrine or who disagree with saying the church shouldn't be teaching what it teaches. In this particular video, those types of comments are not going to be entertained, so don't bother posting them. But I want to talk today about what the Catholic Church teaches about homosexuality and the fact that the church isn't politically correct. Heaven isn't politically correct. Heaven is discriminatory. As Catholics, we are called to a higher standard of living. We are called to abide by particular rules or to deny ourselves of self-gratification and develop in virtue and avoid vice. So I know a lot of people who are pro-homosexuality say that we are just miserable people who aren't giving into what we truly need and all those things. This is not that place for those types of arguments. And I'm saying it now because I'm not going to spend my time on them. I'm not going to let them remain in the comment section, primarily because they are an energy drain and not the purpose of today's conversation. So, in the Catholic tradition, if you're Catholic and experience homosexual inclinations, we have, I personally have spoken in the past about my same-sex attraction, and we have an obligation to grow in virtue and turn away from those temptations. So temptation in and of itself is not a sin. There is, Christ himself was tempted in the desert by the devil, and he did not give in, meaning he did not sin. So we are faced with temptations day in and day out, and when we are, we're called to turn the opposite direction and run from it. Our Father says, "Lead me not into temptation, but deliver me from evil." And so when we start deciding that we're not going to give in to temptation and find that strong will for it to be able to say, I don't want to give in to this and I want to turn away, sometimes just understanding some of those things from the Catholic viewpoint is really good. So I pulled out the catechism today, and it's paragraphs 2357 through 2359 that talk about homosexuality and chastity in particular. So in 2357, it says homosexuality refers to relations between men or between women who experience an exclusive or predominant sexual attraction toward persons of the same sex. It all has a variety of forms. Its psychological genesis remains largely unexplained, so we don't know why exactly it is. Sacred scripture presents homosexual acts as acts of great depravity. Tradition has always declared that homosexual acts are intrinsically disordered, and it's contrary to the natural law. They close the sexual act to the gift of life, and they do not proceed from a genuine affective and sexual complementarity. Under no circumstances can they be approved. So it's contrary to natural law. It doesn't, we aren't giving forward to life if we give in to the sexual temptation to pursue same sex. It goes for masturbation too, right? It closes the sexual act to the gift of life, and it's not sexually complementarity. It doesn't, whatever. It's not sexually complementary. So when we pursue ourselves, there's no duality there. There's nothing that can bring about life, which is ultimately what the sexual act is for. So in 2358, it says the number of people who experience this is not negligible. This inclination, which is objectively disordered, constitutes for most of them a trial. So the Catechism admits and states that they understand, the Church understands that this is something, it's a struggle, and it's acceptable. It's not an abnormal struggle. A lot of people experience it. And all of these people that feel this way should be accepted with respect, compassion, and sensitivity. Every sign of unjust discrimination in their regard should be avoided. These persons are called to fulfill God's will in their lives, and if they are Christians, to unite the sacrifice of the Lord's cross, the difficulties they may encounter from their condition. So when we start talking about salvific sufferings, offering up, Christ took his pain and being killed and offered it up for the salvation of souls. He offered it up for the forgiveness of the world. And so by that, he redeemed suffering. So now I can take stubbing my toe and offer it up for a starving child in India, or offer up some temporal struggle that I have, such as homosexuality, right? If I feel tempted to lust in a certain way, I can say, I'm going to turn away from it, and I'm going to offer this up for the hunger of the world. I'm going to offer it up for peace in our nation. I'm going to offer it up for whatever it may be, for unification among minds in our nation, whatever it is. We can take that suffering and make it be suffering, because when we do just give in to that lust, when we give in to pursuing that temptation, to actually committing a sin instead of just being tempted, we remove the ability to offer that up as Christ did. Christ could have said, take me off this cross. But he said, not my will, but your will be done, Lord. If you're willing, take this cup from me, but not my will, yours be done. And so when we give in to that self-gratification, we're suddenly removing this huge opportunity that we have to be offering, to be partaking and engaging with that redemptive aspect of suffering that Christ did for us, that he gave that opportunity, because everything in this world is connected. So we have to take, I can take each diaper change that I have to do every day, or each blowout that lands on my clothes. I can take all of those and offer it up for, the mothers who are suffering from post-abortive experiences, the mothers who are suffering from miscarriage, the mothers who are suffering from losing their children unexpectedly, car accident deaths, anything. We can take that suffering, and instead of being begrudging about it and being like, oh, another diaper, another situation where I have to, say another Hail Mary so that I get my mind off of what I'm thinking about or what I want to do, or have to get up and walk out of this room because something's going in a direction that I don't want it to go. When we take that, we can take that suffering and offer it for something else. And that is what the Catechism is saying here, to unite that sacrifice of the Lord's cross, the difficulties that we may encounter. Furthermore, and to the extent that I've been stating here in 2359, it says homosexual persons are called to chastity. By the virtues of self-mastery, they teach them inner freedom. At times, by the support of disinterested friendship, by prayer and sacramental grace, they can and should gradually and resolutely approach Christian perfection. So again, just because we are tempted in a particular way doesn't mean that we have to give in and sin. So by developing self-mastery, by developing prudence, we can actually experience inner freedom. When we become a slave to the Spirit instead of a slave to the flesh, we can continue that goal toward Christian perfection. That is, with All Saints Day and All Souls Day being this week, earlier this week, we have that goal. We have our Christian brothers and sisters who are united in heaven, who are praying for us, who have been through their temptations, who have, turned away from sin and caused it to be redemptive suffering, to take everything that they've gone through and are going through and offer it up for, it's not for the forgiveness of sins, because we don't have that type of power. We are not a part of salvation itself, but we can help contribute to the lessening of temporal struggles of others. Temporal being here in this world, the flesh struggles that we experience, like hunger or thirst or cold or hot, if people are freezing to death or sweating profusely, which sounds miserable. These are all the things that we can take our suffering and offer it up for. So, and that takes us on that path to Christian perfection, to sainthood. And so as Catholics, with the knowledge that we have, we are morally subject to follow what the church teaches. We can't just say, oh, well, I'm not hurting anybody, so, it's okay. If you have the knowledge you have to be turning, like, actively trying at least to turn away from that temptation. And only the Lord knows how strong the struggle is for us, how, like, what situations we're in, how we're put in them. A heroin addict is going to have a harder time just saying no than somebody who's never done heroin. So our struggles are all unique. And when we look at that homosexual temptation, God's grace can intercede there if we seek it, going to daily mass, praying the rosary, or just simply Hail Marys or the Our Father, Glory Be, any of these prayers, or even just makeshift prayer, like, Dear Heavenly Father, stop me. It doesn't have to be anything profound. Just talk to God, allow him to walk with you in your struggle, and he will help you find that redeeming quality in your suffering, in that struggle. And the whole idea of premeditated sin as well, choosing to say, oh, well, let's say I've already pursued this 2 times and I'm planning to go to confession on Saturday, so tonight won't hurt because I'm going to confession anyway. That third sin is not automatically absolved in confession. You have to have a contrite heart, and, like, I'm sure there's something in the catechism about that. I've read it before. I didn't expect it to come up right now, but the whole premeditation aspect of sin, like, you can't just say, oh, well, I'm gonna go to confession for this, so it's okay if I do it now because I'll get forgiven next week, or I'll get forgiven this weekend. It just doesn't work that way. And so we really need to be cautious in how we're approaching the sins that we know are a greater temptation to us, and all the more reason to be turning away from the temptation, to not put ourselves in the situation where we would be more likely to give in. Whether that's not having a phone in your room by yourself, not being alone with somebody else in a room, only meeting in public places, whatever that might be, there's always a way. God's grace can grant you the knowledge to know how to get out of those situations, or how to avoid the temptation altogether. So I just want to encourage you to seek the Lord in that, seek him in prayer. He will speak, knock and the door will be answered, seek and you will find. And God is there. He's waiting for you to hold your heart in this, to help guide you away from temptation. And I have no doubt that he will show up for you as long as you seek him. So God bless. Thanks for tuning in today. Like I said, hopefully if you watch this long, you are actually a Catholic, and it's not something that, you can be like, oh, you're not hurting anybody. And, I really, from a Catholic perspective, homosexuality is something that is, as it said, what was it? It can never be approved. Like, let's see, it was 2357, right? Yeah, under no circumstances can they be approved, the homosexual acts. So, plain and simple, it's actually referencing me back to 2333 there, where it says everyone, man and woman, should acknowledge and accept his sexual identity. So it's okay to acknowledge, I'm attracted to the same sex. Physical, and then it says physical, moral, and spiritual differences and complementarity are oriented toward the goods of marriage and the flourishing of family life. And so it's not to say that we need to deny what we're experiencing. In fact, if we just deny it, again, we aren't actually able to join that suffering to Christ's cross. So it's not a bad thing to experience what we do. We just have to find that way to, get out of the temptation. So let me know what you think. Feel free to message me personally if you have any other questions or anything like that. I'm happy to dialogue in the comments if you don't mind that the conversation is public. But I'm over on Instagram at Allie Marie here. And feel free to send me a message there. It's probably the best way to get a hold of me. So God bless. I pray that God grants you the resources that you need to draw closer to him and in turn to those around you. And I pray that you're able to make it a great day. We'll talk to you soon.